I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for the day, a gentleman who is astonishing in many ways. Carlo Capua is co-founder and operator of Z's Cafe, social enterprise partnership with local nonprofits American House, which is based here in Fort Worth. Over the past 10 years, Z's Cafe has put 136 low-income men and women back to work, helping them build self-esteem and job skills to return to the workforce with dignity and respect. In 2017, Z's Cafe won the title of Fort Worth's Small Business of the Year. A 2000 business school graduate of TCU, Carlo received his degree in business marketing. After graduation, he spent 7 years teaching English abroad and often speaks to students on world cultures. His burning interest in global affairs has taken him to 19 countries. Carlo speaks fluent Japanese and Spanish and has completed 18 full marathons and an Ironman triathlon. Really? Way to show me up. I walked here today from the office. He's the current president of the TCU Alumni Association, serves on the TCU Board of Trustees. Will you please help me welcome Carlo Capua?
Thank you. Enjoy. I appreciate it. Yep. Thank you, Heath, for that very kind introduction. Students, where are you? Raise your hands for me. You guys are awesome. And here's how I know. The simple fact that you are here in this room and that TCU wants you is nothing short of remarkable. When I was a student here, it was a breeze. And I mean, it was a real breeze to get into TCU. Now, parents, family, friends, where are you? You should be incredibly proud of the young man or woman sitting next to you, and I know that you are. For full disclosure, I'm the president of the National Alumni Association here at TCU, but I'll level with you and I'll be honest. I'm not an employee here, but Heath would tell you the same thing. Wherever you choose, find your fit. If you're still not sure where to go, go with your gut and go with whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. You know, whether you choose TCU or another college, and I have a prop here, whether you choose TCU or another college, when you start next semester, your life will be like this coloring book, in the sense that it will be completely blank, brand new, and waiting for some color and some lines. Now, when you start your first semester, you'll start going to classes, making friends, building relationships with your professors, get involved in student organizations, and you'll start to draw in the lines. And right about then is when you'll have a sketch of what your college experience might look like. Now here's my favorite part. This is when you add the color. And the color meaning you might take a leadership position in an organization. You declare your major, you study abroad, you do some really awesome things that change the trajectory of your lives. And here's where the real magic happens, because by the time you walk across the stage at graduation, what was once a blank coloring book is now a book filled with pages and pictures and stories. And yes, I do bar mitzvahs, so feel free to call. And the best part is you get to keep adding color to your lives for the rest of your lives. You know, as Heath just mentioned, I've had the chance to do some pretty cool things and see some pretty neat places since I graduated. And when he asked me to speak today, I thought, okay, I'm going to pinpoint the 3 key pieces of advice I got when I was a student here that sort of changed the trajectory of my life after graduation and helped add the color to my coloring book. And the first one happened actually in this picture that you can see. This is the picture from the Chancellor's Assembly. And a couple days before class starts each fall, the Chancellor gets all the freshmen together and all the first-year transfer students. And he tells them, students, number 1, you are worthy to be here. Number 2, try things that are difficult. Don't take the easy way out. Be challenged and challenge other people. Challenge what you know. But most of all, try something hard. And so a couple days before class started, I was picking my classes. And at TCU, you have to either take a foreign language or an oral communication class. I thought, I'm going to take a foreign language. So I opened the book and I was going to pick my language, and I thought I could take French, German, Latin, and then I saw Spanish. And I remember that, you know, I was a Texas high school kid. We all take Spanish in high school. None of us can speak it, but miraculously, we managed to pass the class, right? I know you know from Texas. I know you know what I'm talking about. And so I thought, you know, I don't want to take Spanish. This is a chance for me to try something hard. So I'm going to open up that book, and I'm going to choose whatever the hardest language is. So I open it up, and I see Japanese. I thought, oh, that's it. I'm going to take Japanese. And mind you, I knew zero about Japanese. That the extent of my knowledge of Japanese was sushi, sumo, and Hello Kitty. And that was it. Really, that was it. It was basically zero. So I signed up on the spot. I raced home to tell my mom and dad. And you can imagine that they didn't exactly share my same level of enthusiasm, because they, as they often reminded me, were the ones paying for the class. And so I decided to make a deal with my mom and dad. And students, show of hands, have you ever tried to make a deal with your mom or dad? Oh, you poor souls. It never typically doesn't go over very well. Your parents are older, and smarter, and they're better negotiators, right? And so I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to make you a deal. If I don't at least make a B in my Japanese class, I'll drop it and I'll take Spanish. And they said, oh, Spanish, is that the language that you passed but you can't speak? I said, yeah, that one, that's the one. And so I got all excited. I went to my first Japanese class, and it's the first day of school. And I look around, everybody's really nervous. And our Japanese teacher busts through the door and says, welcome to Japanese 101. Here is your first assignment. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be impossible. When you look at this, you don't even know where to start. My parents were right. I have no business trying something so difficult. But don't we often do that when we're faced with a challenge, right? We psych ourselves out. I'm not smart enough. I don't drive the right car. I don't have the right friends. I'm not in the right crowd. And sometimes I've learned, sometimes those brick walls are up in front of you to see just how bad you want to get through. And sometimes those brick walls are up to keep everybody else out. So just as I was ready to flee the class and drop the course, our teacher said, you know, students, things aren't always as difficult as they first appear. And I'll give you an example. We'll do a little example. This is what she did with us in this first class. That top left character, she said sometimes in Japanese, the written characters, they look like the actual thing they represent. So if you were to look outside, that top left character, what might that look like in nature? Kind of the shape or the form. Tree, very good. I heard it from somebody. And so if that's tree, then 3 trees together would be what? A forest, exactly. Very, very good. So it's that kind of logic and reasoning. Now we're going to go to Japanese level 2, a little harder, okay? The top right 2 characters, they're right next to one another. The first one is pronounced kara, and the second one is pronounced te. Kara, te, what does that sound like? In English, it's karate, exactly. Kara means empty, and te means hand. So karate is the art of the empty hand because it's a defensive sport and you don't use weapons. That's why literally it's empty hand together. I see some light bulbs flickering above your heads. Now let's go to the last one. The last one is a little more difficult. There's 3 characters on this one. Kara, what does kara mean, that first one? Empty. The middle character is pronounced O, last character is pronounced K. So you have karaoke. Karaoke. Does that sound familiar? In English we say what? Karaoke, exactly. Because kara means what? Empty. Okay is short for orchestra. So literally the empty orchestra. Because it's just the music coming out of the speaker and you're singing. So my whole Japanese experience, it was such an amazing experience. I ended up minoring in Japanese. And I studied abroad there. And on my graduation day, my Japanese professor said, Carlo, don't let your graduation day be the last day you study Japanese. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, there's a chance that you could go to Japan and actually live there and teach, or you could stay here in Fort Worth and study Japanese. And which one do you think I chose? I went to Japan, and I went to teach English. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to go teach English. I'll get a real job using my business degree, which my parents paid for, and they kept reminding me. And so I fell in love with teaching, something totally different than I had ever thought I would study or be interested in. And so I also fell in love with the kids. And my Japanese professor said, sometimes you got to just go see for yourself. So this is a picture of me with my elementary school class. And the best part of living in Japan it was going to be 1 year, it turned into 4 years because it was such an awesome experience. And the best part was, the kids were great, but the fact I was so big, they gave me 2 school lunches every day. It was amazing. you ever seen Kindergarten Cop? You know, they're climbing on me like a jungle gym, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was amazing. You know, being in Japan and cities like this in Tokyo, it was like unlocking a part in my brain and my heart at the same time. It was absolutely amazing. Talk about filling your bucket. When you realize, students, you'll have a moment where you'll realize, I was born to do this. This is what I'm passionate about. And that was my Japan moment, was knowing this is what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. Something like this. You know, then I had a chance to see for myself and go to Papua New Guinea, which is a country really close to Japan. And if you pulled out your smartphones right now and you Googled Papua New Guinea, you probably find two things: cannibalism and tribal warfare. And so we often see in the media or from other people, secondhand news, reasons why we shouldn't do something, why we shouldn't go explore. And so, you know, you pull up a picture on the internet, you'll find this about Papua New Guinea. But if this had deterred me and I didn't go see for myself, I never would have had one of the most culturally enriching experiences of my entire life. See for yourself. I'm the one in the middle in this picture, in case I need to clear that up. It was like opening up a National Geographic magazine and stepping right into the pages. It was absolutely amazing. And so I had a chance to go to another country. Now let me ask you this, so I'll take a poll. Think about it in your head. What country do you have the most negative stereotype about as Americans in this country? Just kind of think about it. The most negative stereotype, especially right now, considering the political climate. So, yep, probably it would be North Korea. And so I'd always had this desire to go to North Korea. I know it sounds crazy, right? And I thought, has any American ever really gone to North Korea? So 2 years ago, I went for myself and I saw for myself. And the only way, and you'll probably think I'm crazy, but the only way to get into North Korea as an American is to sign up for a marathon. And so fortunately I was a runner, and so I thought this is a chance to kind of kill two birds. And so I started and finished the Pyongyang Marathon, 26.2 miles. Here in this picture, this is the largest stadium in the world. There's 150,000 people that can fit in this stadium. And, you know, on TV we see images, when you think of North Korea, we see military parades, we see rockets, we see propaganda. But my lasting memory is this one. This was a family that just happened to see me and cheered for me every time I did a lap around the city. And they followed me, and they high-fived me, and they cheered for me, they patted me on the back, they clapped. And these are North Koreans doing this to an American. They're supposed to hate us, and we're supposed to hate them, right? President Dwight Eisenhower said 60 years ago something very prophetic. He said, sometimes governments need to get out of the way and let the people come together. And instead of building walls, we should be building bridges with one another. And all this happened in my life because of that single Japanese class, trying something hard, and my Japanese teacher's advice. The last place I'll show you today is I had a similar experience in Africa. And I went to a country, it's so small that the name isn't even printed on the map. It's one of those green dots at the bottom, the one between South Africa and Mozambique. And if I were to ask you, what's a typical image that you have about Africa? It would probably be something like this, wouldn't it? Despair, starvation, hopelessness. But my experience seeing for myself was something very different. If you ever have a chance to stay with a host family in another country, it is one of the coolest things you could ever do. And my host family was awesome. And the last day, I was talking to a couple students, and they said, Carlo, this is your first time in Swaziland. Swaziland is #1 in the country for something. And I said, oh, what's that? They said, it's something not very good. And I said, well, what is it? They said, we have the highest HIV and AIDS infection rate in the world at 25% of the population. Can you imagine? And when I went, this was 11 years ago, the average life expectancy was 32 years old. And I was 32 at the time in this picture. So talk about a wake-up call. And they then asked me a question that would totally change the direction of my career. They said, Carlo, you know a lot about HIV and AIDS in Swaziland. What's HIV and AIDS like in Fort Worth, where you're from? And I said, I don't know. But I promise you that I will go and find out. So I came home and I was talking to my mom. This is my mom. And I was about to tell her all about my trip, and she said, son, I got to tell you something. She said, I've been a dental hygienist for 40 years, and I think I'm just kind of ready to follow my dream. I said, what? I said, well, what's your dream, Mom? And she said, well, my dream is to cook for people. Now, students, time out for a second. Students, isn't it a weird thing? Can you imagine your parents saying they've done this whole career for 30 or 40 years and they're ready to follow their dream or pursue their passion? It's a weird thought, isn't it? Because you have to remember, and I forgot too, our parents were people before we were born. Remember that. Our parents had dreams and desires. And I thought, well, why didn't my mom do this cooking thing earlier? And then I remembered, oh yeah, she had me. And she got busy, had me and my sister, and had to take all her dreams and desires and put them up on a shelf where they collected dust for 40 years. And so I thought, okay, Mom, I'll help you with this crazy idea. Let me tell you, these were my mom's parents, and they were the two worst cooks in the whole world, which is weird. And so my grandmother burned my mother's mac and cheese every week for like 10 years. So my mom got so fed up one day when she was 12 years old, she got a chair in the kitchen and stood on it, opened up a cookbook, and taught herself, totally self-taught, taught herself how to cook. And so I thought, Mom, okay, I don't know, we'll start a catering business. I wasn't sure what to do. And I said, I've got an idea. Our cousin turns 16 next month. She's going to have a big party. Instead of buying her a gift, let's just offer to cater the party for her. Right? And that was my secret way of seeing what my mom had. And so my mom said, and remember this, specific phrase, my mom said, I'll throw a little something together. Okay, so the party comes around, I show up, I turn the corner into the kitchen, and this is my mom's version of throwing a little something together. I thought, holy smokes. And students, your parents, let me tell you, have talents and dreams and skills that you probably never known. And so this is a chance for me to see something, a part of my mom that I had never known, and how could I say no, of course. So we decided to start our own business. And this is my last point that I'm going to share with you, is why you should stay connected. Because when we started this business, we had no money, no equipment, just this crazy idea of this 63-year-old woman who was a dental hygienist for 40 years and her crazy son who went to North Korea, right? Sounded interesting on the news, but not so much on paper. So we needed a business plan. And so guess where you think my first call was to start our business plan? It was to my business professor here at TCU. I said, Mr. Thompson, I need some help. My mom's got this crazy idea. I just came back from Africa, this and that. He said, Carlo, come tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and I will clear my schedule for you. And that happened with 4 or 5 different professors. I needed graphic design done. I called my old graphic design professor. I needed some advertisements done. I called my old strategic communication professor, and they all made time for me. And it's because I kept in touch with them after I graduated. So one day I got a call and I said, somebody called me and said, Carlo, there's an old cafe space that's not being used. Are you and your mom interested in doing this? And I thought, oh, great. So we raced over to our car. This is what we saw. We thought, this is not so exciting. We really need some help here. So who did I call? I called my old interior design professor, Dr. Fortenberry, and she made it a whole class project to totally redo this cafe space. So this is the rendering that her students came up with. And so with a lot of hard work and a little luck, that rendering became this reality. This was actually what our very first cafe looked like, thanks to all the hard work that the professors and staff gave me here at TCU. And so now we got a loan from the bank, we got a cool looking place, now we needed staff. And you remember that conversation I had with those 2 girls from Africa talking about HIV and AIDS? Well, when I came back to Fort Worth, I realized that if you have a long gap on your resume, whether it's from being homeless, being in jail, or being an addict, you are less likely to be hired on paper, and there's nobody in their right mind who would really give you a chance. So we found those people and we hired them. And this was our initial staff of 8. And from 8 years ago, these 8 turned into these 8. And the biggest change probably is because my #1 client now is, guess who? is TCU. And this isn't to put the hard sell on you to TCU. This is just the power of trying something hard, of staying connected and seeing for yourself. One other tip, any ladies out there interested in starting their own business one day? Okay, a couple. So here's a tip to remember. If you ever start your own business, make sure it's a woman-owned business. My professor here said, Carlo, make it a woman-owned business. You're going in partners with your mom. Give her 51% and you take 49%. And I said, well, why would I do that other than being a good Italian boy? Why would I want to do that? And they said, because certain companies, they will give precedence and priority to women-owned businesses. And so on a whim, okay, whatever. We filled out the form. 3 months later, I get a call from the NFL, the National Football League. And they said, well, Carlo, we noticed you're a woman-owned business. You give chances to people who are low income. We've got a little event coming up. We thought you might like to cater. It's called the Super Bowl. This was back in 2011 when the Super Bowl came to Texas, to Dallas, to Irving. And so because of that one piece of advice, it's amazing. That sort of saved our whole business. And now with any other person we try to cater to or do food for, we can say, hey, guess what? We catered the Super Bowl. It was a pretty amazing experience. So in closing, well, thank you. And Heath was nice enough to mention that last year we were actually named the 2017 Small Business of the Year in Fort Worth. So in closing, try something hard, see for yourself, stay connected. Those are the 3 key pieces that I'd like to leave with you. And one more thing, one more reason to stay connected, because students, you never quite know who from your alma mater will show up on the most important day of your life to add just a little more color. Thank you very much. Thanks, man.
Let's go.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
We're so lucky to have Carlo do this for us, and he's a real gem, and he's among the crown jewels of this place. But I have to say, this is not meant in any disrespectful way, sir. We have a lot of amazing alumni here. In fact, I was just this morning watching a video that was put together about a recent alumna in our studio art department. And she had been working for a couple of years after graduation teaching art, and she decided she was going to put her craft to work in a different way. And she started drawing pictures of her friends' animals. And word got out that she was really good, and all of a sudden, next thing she knows, her stuff is being sold by Pier 1. And Pier 1, their corporate headquarters here in Fort Worth. And I'm reminded of that because I just saw the video this morning. Yet another example. Our alumni are doing incredible things, largely because you're so smart when you get here, largely because we have incredibly talented faculty who will mentor you, and largely because of the strength in the TCU network. And you will build those relationships when you are here, and you will continue those relationships when you leave this place in 4 years. And you're only going to be staying here for 4 years. All right. Next up, I'm going to invite Sarah. She's going to dismiss you from where you're seated today. And remember,